The Hegseth issue, it seems to me that we've already been through four excuses at this point, four excuses. The first one was that it was fake news and it didn't happen. I think the second excuse was, oh, hell yeah, we kill narco terrorists and that's what we do, and we're gonna put out a Franklin meme. Um, I think then it was self-defense, and now it's apparently the second strike was because the boat was a hazard to other vessels. Um, Now it's not Pete Hegseth's fault; it's the admiral's fault, and it's I'm not defending narco terrorists. I would never defend narco terrorists, but I will defend the rule of law. Um, and I just and I just think it's absolutely absurd the amount of chaos that this administration engages in. I would have no problem with anything that we're doing in the Caribbean, not anything, just sort of hyperbole. Um, if we would only get congressional authorization to do so,
Right.
we don't need a declaration of war, but we do need some sort of AUMF. Um, and now, what have we done with Venezuela? Has Trump declared a no-fly zone over Venezuela essentially? Because
Only on social media. Kristen will tell you, Truth Social is not real life.
right, but
So
how
Josh,
far away? How
yeah,
far away is a
yeah,
Trump truth
yeah.
from a Trump policy?
Yeah, sometimes they're
Mm.
indistinguishable. Joshua, you've raised literally 100 issues there. I'm not being hyperbolic. Really important constitutional issues, political issues, PR issues, and I'll let my colleagues address them first, and then I will. But I don't. I'm not saying that to be critical. I'm saying you've raised a bunch of really important stuff, and I appreciate any opportunity we have here to have debates about these issues because they're too little discussed. These are serious, serious stuff, and one issue, of course, is Congress absolutely for 50 years giving up its constitutional, not
Yeah,
just obligation and right, but responsibility to
yeah,
follow the Constitution and be the one in charge of war making. So,
yeah.
Yemisi, first,
Well,
you could pick up on any of the 100 things
I mean,
that
it's
Joshua
politically
raised.
convenient, right? It's
Yeah.
politically convenient for
Yes.
Congress to do so
Yes.
because
It
they don't
is.
have to run on anything that they do.
Correct.
They can run on,
Yeah.
against the president.
Yeah. Okay. So again, you can pick any of the 100 you wish. Yemisi, go ahead.
I will say, I think Democrats are constantly in the cycle of Trump does something egregious, Dems get outraged, lots of speeches on the floor. Trump ends up doing what he said he was going to do in at the top of the day. And so Jeffries not really being interested in bringing articles of impeachment to the floor and saying he's not even going to go in that direction when it comes to Hegseth, because he already knows that Johnson is not going to bring the articles of impeachment to the floor. He already knows that Johnson is going to follow whatever Trump wants to do. And so for this whole situation with Venezuela, with the boats, to me, it is Trump doing something absolutely ridiculous, but Dems having no real positioning power here. It's just I just think we're going to see floor speeches for the next week. There's going to be a classified briefing with members. They'll exit. They'll go to the reporters and go, "What we learned is very concerning," or "We really need to follow up on next steps." And then I don't think anything actually happens out of this.
Kristen.
I agree. I mean, just for the political theater part of it, Dems do find themselves in a trap where it's always outrage, outrage, outrage. Nothing, that's kind of Trump's game with them, I think. But this debate, just in general, is valid and it's not new. So we've been having, I mean, go back to just the Iraq War and the Bush administration, and then many, many years before that. This has constantly been a intellectual tension between folks who are on the more libertarian side, more, pro hard defense. I mean, Democrat, Republican. So this debate will go ongoing. I don't know the right answer to it. I think that every situation is different, but I do think this is a new phase of that debate, right?
Yeah.
That we saw, that we had. I mean, frankly, that we had when Obama was using drones in the Middle East during his term. So literally every president has this tension, which is good and healthy, I think. We need that, check on power and back and forth, but ultimately the president's job is to keep the country safe. And so having the debate is important, and I think helps keeps us going in the right direction. And I think I don't know the answer of where we'll unfold here, but I do know this is the next kind of phase of that.
Yeah. Joshua, I'll resist my urge to address all 100 issues you raised and just say this. I'm for the facts and the truth, and I'm for constitutional order, and I'm not for war crimes. And your characterization of the stages of Pete Hegseth's explanations is absolutely right, and it's on the face of it, it's clear those explanations are not consistent in the sense of they've changed. He's emphasized different things. But I will say that based on the reporting of the New York Times, based on what the secretary said yesterday, and based on all other available facts, everything he said is arguably true. It's not definitely true, but there's nothing that contradicts any of his four explanations if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So when he says the Washington Post story was fake, he wasn't saying there was no second strike. He was saying their characterization of his role was not accurate. And if you look at the Washington Post, the New York Times reporting, and you look at the secretary's partial chronology yesterday, the Washington Post story, its emphasis, the way the Washington Post story was framed, would not be accurate, because the Washington Post story suggested that it was his order that caused the admiral to do the second tap. And that's not currently contradicted by what we know. So all I'd say is I'm for holding all government officials accountable. I'm not saying the secretary's been a model leader on this. We just don't know what all the facts are. But I think it's wrong to just go with the flow of saying he's lying about this and he's evading responsibility, because we just don't know enough about how all this went down. And based on what he said, so far uncontradicted, he might have a better story to tell than he's told for himself so far.
For sure. If I may close with just by saying that, the administration is very good with their, strategically ambiguous statements. And I think, Mark, you would agree with that. And that's a political strategy that they've taken. I saw a statistic where the Coast Guard said, which obviously drug interdiction is traditionally a Coast Guard function. The Coast Guard said that about 75% of the boats, of the vessels that they stop are drug traffickers. Yeah. Well, that leaves 25% that aren't drug traffickers, that might be illegal immigrants, that might be fishermen, and the Navy is not equipped to do the mission of the Coast Guard. Yeah. Right. This coming from Marine. All right. Yeah. The Navy is not equipped to do that mission. We can't just engage in extrajudicial, killings. If that's what's going on. Yeah. I condemned it with Obama, and I condemn it now. I share
your sensibility about this, and I hope there's a big, robust national debate about it for this president and anyone else who wants to engage in this kind of activity. Thank you, Joshua.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the Morning Meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.